Hey guys, welcome to Through the Bible Verse by Verse, a plain and simple study of the entire Bible, book by book, chapter by chapter, and verse by verse. Currently, we are in 1 Samuel chapter 9, and as the saying goes, be careful what you ask for because you just might get it. God is going to give Israel a king that they demanded, and it is sad, but their first king will be Saul. Now, Saul's going to be a very interesting character here because there's a couple of things that we could unpack with this. One, Saul is going to turn out to be a wicked king. Now, he won't show it at first. The question would be, but he was God's choice. God specifically chose him. But the way you look at this is that, well, God could have said, I can wait another 40 years for David. Or, I'm going to give them what they asked for since they're not seeking me. That's my take on it. But the fact is, God chose to answer their request. And Saul is going to do all of the stuff that Samuel through God will warn, God through Samuel would warn them about. Taking their goods, making, young men serve him. All of the stuff right there. But even more than that, there's a quality that God will despise about Saul. And you may say at first, wow, I don't see it. I'm going to get into it later when we talk about it. I'll let it unfold when we get to that part when God rejects Saul and why he rejects him. All right, so let's get into this. 1 Samuel chapter 9. He said there was an influential man. Verse 1 says, there was an influential man of the Benjamites named Cush, the son of Abiel, the son of Zerah, the son of Bechorath, the son of Ephraim, the son of Benjamin. He had a son named Saul, an impressive young man. There was no one more impressive among the Israelites than he. Stood head taller than everyone else. So Saul was a tall man, so that gave the appearance that he kind of had that look, the kingly look. But his heart, that's going to be the interesting thing about Saul right here. He will do everything exteriorly, but his heart is what God will despise. Verse 3, one day the donkeys of Saul's father Kish wandered off. Kish said to his son Saul, take one of the attendants with you and go look for the donkeys. Saul and his attendant went through the hill country of Ephraim and then through the regions of Shalisha, but they didn't find them. They went through the region of Shalim, nothing. Then they went through the Benjamite region, but still didn't find them. When they came to the land of Zub, Saul said to the attendant who was with him, come on, let us go back, or my father will start worrying about the donkeys and start worrying about us. Look, the attendant said, there's a man of God. Now remember, we're going to see this kind of language change, man of God. They will always be man of God. But then we're going to see the term seer and prophet. He says, look, there's a man of God in this city who was highly respected. Everything he says is sure to come true. So remember, Samuel was established as the true prophet. Let us go there now. Maybe he'll tell us which way we should go. Suppose we do go, Saul said to his attendant. What do we take the man? The food from our packs is gone. There is no gift to take the man of God. What do we have? The attendant answered and said, Here I have a piece of silver, and I'll give it to the man of God, and he will tell us our way. Now, formerly in Israel, a man who was going to inquire of God would say, come, let us go to the seer, for the prophet of today was formerly called the seer. Now, it's kind of interesting because we see some of the same stuff today. The term is honorarium, honoring or giving a gift, or to put it simply, to pay him a fee. Now, as you kind of see in scriptures, the more the language is usually more spelled out. So the more define you call it diviner's fee or prophet's fee. Profit for hire. Okay. In ministries today, you see what's called honorariums. One of the biggest, when you see ministers on television, oftentimes people will say they're getting rich off television. For the most part, they're not getting rich off television. Television is a marketplace for TV ministries. All of them. Okay, all of them. The ministers get on televisions to promote their ministries. Now, that could be good, that could be bad, but understand, all of them do it. That's why when you watch the so-called television ministries on television, whatever channel, whatever market, that's why you always see they break in and advertise their books, their products, right? Where they're going to meet. Okay, so the television ministries are advertising. They are extremely expensive advertising mediums. Okay, the purpose is to get their name out there. So what happens is that they can sell their books, they can sell their tapes, but they also, people invite them. So the more popular the minister, the more they get invited. Now, when they get invited, they get fees for that. And we're talking expensive fees. Okay? So the more, I could tell you 30 years ago, there was a very popular man who, for just one weekend, was getting about $60,000. Think about that, $60,000. He was coming into the weekend and preach at a church service. $60,000. He was, and by the way, he's an extremely popular man. So now you can see why he is wealthy. Same thing with gospel singers, right? You see some of your favorite gospel singers. They come to churches and they charge $5,000, $10,000, $15,000, depending on how popular they are. So they may get charged those exuberant fees to sing their song. Okay. Okay. So here's the thing. So this is not new, and you see it here. Now, like I say, is it a bad thing or the good thing? Depending on the person. All right. So verse 10 says, "Good." Paul replied to his attendant, "Come, let us go." So they went to the city where the man of God was. As they were climbing the hill to the city, they found some young women coming out to draw water, and they asked, "Is the seer here?" Now remember, the seer is the prophet. The women answered, "Yes, he is ahead of you. Hurry, he has just now come to the city because there's a sacrifice for the people at the high place today. If you go quickly, you can catch up with him before he goes to the high place to eat. The people won't eat until he comes because he must bless the sacrifice. After that, the guests can eat. Go up immediately and you can find him now." So they went up towards the city. Now, I want to just throw in one thing. Notice he talks about the blessing. Then they can eat. So you had the sacrifice. It was kind of a ceremony, and they blessed. And you remember when Jesus broke the 5,000, he blessed it. This is where we get praying over our food, saying the blessing over our food. Okay? And I think if you do it in faith, God honors that. If you do it religiously, okay, you're just uttering words. It says Saul and his attendants were entering. I'm going to go back up here. Verse 14. I'm going to read verse 14 again. So they went up towards the city. Saul and his attendants were entering the city when they saw Samuel coming towards them on his way to the high place. Now, the day before Saul's arrival, the Lord had informed Samuel. Now, I'll get this. So now we get this revelation here. The revelation is that this is a look behind the scenes. Now, the day, verse 15 again. Now, the day before Saul's arrival, the Lord had informed Samuel, at this time tomorrow I will send a young man from the land of Benjamin, anoint him ruler over my people Israel. He will save them from the hand of the Philistines, because I have seen the afflictions of my people, for their cry has come to me. And when Samuel saw Saul, the Lord told him, here is the man I told you about. He will rule over my people. So we see this kind of a transition now from the judge to the king. Okay? And he will, notice he said he will save my people. And as you see, the kings now were more warriors as well as rulers. Verse 18, Saul approached Samuel in the gate area and asked, would you please tell me where the seer's house is? I am the seer, Saul answered. Go up ahead of me to the high place and eat with me today. When I send you off in the morning, I will tell you everything that's in your heart. Now, this is something here because these fake fake prophets today cannot tell you what's truly on your heart. Only a true prophet can tell you what is on your heart. All right, because, by the way, because that gift has to come from God. God is the one who gives out that revelation, who gives that information. No one has the ability to see inside of you. Verse 20, he says, as for the donkeys that wandered away from you 3 days ago, don't worry about them because they have been found. And who does all of Israel desire but you and all of your father's family? Now, he's speaking prophetically, right? Because Saul is kind of like looking at like, me? Verse 21, Saul responded, am I not a Benjamite from the smallest of the Israelites' tribe? And isn't my clan the least important of all the clans of the Benjamite tribe? So why have you said something like this to me? You remember doing Judges that almost all of the Benjamite tribes were wiped out. So that's why he said now they're the smallest tribes here. Verse 22, Samuel took Saul and his attendants and brought them to the banquet hall and gave them a place at the head of the let me read that again. Samuel took Saul and his attendants and brought them to the banquet hall and gave them a place at the head of the 30 or so men who had been invited. Then Samuel said to the cook, get the portion of meat that I gave you and told you to set aside. The cook picked up the piece of the thigh that was attached to it and set it before Saul. Then Samuel said, notice that I've reserved the piece that is set before you. Eat it because it was saved for you for this solemn event at the time I said I would invite the people. So Saul ate with Samuel that day. Afterwards, they went down to the high place to the city, and Samuel spoke with Saul on the roof. Now, you keep noticing the use of the term high place. These were high elevated plots of land in cities. Pagans thought the higher up you get, the closer you were to the deities. This is why these places were set. Now, Jerusalem itself, believe it or not, is set on a higher elevation. For example, if you look through Scripture, you would always see that you're always going up to Jerusalem. You're never going down. You're always going up to Jerusalem or coming down from it. All right. Verse 26. They got up early, and just before dawn, Samuel called to Saul on the roof, "Get up, and I will send you on your way." Saul got up, and both he and Samuel went outside. As they were going down to the edge of the city, Samuel said to Saul, "Tell the attendant to go on ahead of us, but you stay for a while, and I will reveal the word of the Lord to you." So the attendant went on. Now, you kind of you see here, you see how God is preparing Saul, right, by giving these prophetic words through Samuel. Okay, so this is, in a sense, it's kind of the same criteria, the same method when God called the prophet, except it's different because God himself is giving this revelation. Here, God, through the prophet, is kind of preparing Saul as the king. One, all the people will know that the prophet is acknowledging him. Saul himself will know a true man of God is the one that's setting him apart. Okay, that a true man of God is setting him apart. All right, we'll pick it up in chapter 10 in the next study. I'll see you then.